any hope of winning the tournament. He is ready, but Magnus will have the white pieces. Do you expect him to go for the kill in this game, David?
Judging from the way he played this first game today, it feels like Magnus is out for blood. He starts with the English opening. Yeah, we saw yesterday in the final game, in Game 3, when Magnus only needed a draw. He played very passively, played for the draw. He was significantly worse after the opening. So I think Magnus, he's trying to make amends for that. He's definitely not chosen a passive opening. It's the King's Indian defence. Magnus occupying the centre with all his pawns. And what will he choose now? It's difficult to just kill the game against the King's Indian. It's difficult to go straight for a draw. It's likely going to be very tense. I like this opening choice from Erigaisi as well.
Yeah, I like this choice as well. You know, it is combative, it is dynamic, it is everything he needs. And, well, it's putting a question mark on Magnus, because what is he going to play? Is he going to try to play a solid variation? Is he perhaps going to just accelerate the battle and play something very aggressive? We will see. You know, bearing in mind, a draw is quite a good result, then he would be half a point away from securing the tournament victory.
Yeah, I mean, I think he had this against the Ronian, didn't he, in the last competition where he played the main line, which is bringing the other knight out. And that was a very, very exciting game where he actually sacked a queen in the end to get victory. And he's gone for an older, well, I say older variation, the same-ish variation, which is a very decent line as well. But that little pawn move that Magnus played, I remember it was Gufeld, a Russian grandmaster who loved playing this position as black, who said, "What a move, you can't play this move, where's the white knight going to go?" He really wasn't a fan of this, but it is, of course, a good line. And it should be fun, this game, because all the pieces are going to remain on the board, and black's now got to decide what pawn he's going to push. And there's normally a choice of two here, isn't there, really, David, that he can try to go for.
Yeah, normally black pushes a pawn, either the black e-pawn or c-pawn, to challenge white centre. You can't allow white to just maintain the central pawn structure forever and then slowly develop pieces behind. You need to fight for squares, fight for space. And Ivanka, have there been many games in this?
Many games, and I can tell you that this particular variation seems to be a firm favourite of the computers. So we've got Leela Chess Zero playing this, another one called Rough-Card, I don't know how to pronounce it, Stockfish 14, Stockfish 15 has tried it, Komodo Dragon. So we've got a lot of high-level games. Remember, I love their ratings. These computers have ratings of like 3,809.
Oh, my. Oh, wow, 3,809.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Above perfect.
That's not too bad.
Yeah.
Nope. Decent rating.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we do see one of your pawn pushers, Simon, and Magnus immediately blocks up the centre. White can't let things open up because White's lacking in development. White's king still several moves away from castling. And it's a nice pawn chain for White, but Black, I'm expecting to chip away at that pawn structure again. Just first kicking back White's bishop. White's bishop is happy to actually lose time, and now Arjun trying to open the centre.
All main line theory, this. I mean, I remember playing this line as White. It was a long time ago, at least 20 years ago. It was one of my favourite variations, but black does get a lot of counterplay, so this is a good choice from Arjun, who really needs to win, has to win one of the games of black to have any chance, so he's picked the right opening. And there's many moves that black can try here to gain counterplay, but first of all, he develops his knight, which is coming towards the centre, and again, this is all pretty known theory so far. And the white knight now coming back around, so both sides developing pretty normally.
Yeah. My understanding, though, was that this knight move that Arjun has made was slightly inaccurate.
True.
And the reason is because of Magnus's move, because that knight really wants to be, the white knight, sorry, really wants to be on the F2 square.
It's a good point, Ivanka, well spotted. And we saw that Magnus in his last game eliminated that knight with his bishop, but Arjun can't do that because he's blocked it. So it's a good point. And now the white knight gets his ideal square. First of all, you have to stop black's plan. Always look what your opponent's last move is. Always try to work out what they're trying to do. And, of course, he doesn't stop it because I've said that. And actually, Matthew Sadler used to play this way with the white pieces. Famous English grandmaster who's well known for his computer expertise. And I do believe his chessball course is on sale at the moment. You should check it out. It's a brilliant course. But Yeah, this is interesting though, David, allowing black to now push on the queen side.
Can I just... Oh, yeah, David's got it highlighted.
Sorry, go on, Ivanka.
Right.
No, I was... I'll leave it to you.
Yeah, so just to backtrack a couple of moves, in this position, White, after the black pawn push, White could not actually take this pawn. It looks like a free pawn here. It's defended by the queen, but black now has a nasty tactic. Black's knight can jump out the way, capture a pawn, hitting the white queen, and when this knight is captured, the black queen can sweep in with a check, also hitting the white bishop. So, for example, here, black takes the white bishop, and black has full domination over the dark squares. And Magnus, instead of taking this pawn, jumped back with his knight. So now the queen coming out would never be a check along this diagonal, so this pawn was finally threatened. So black didn't have time to commit and push his pawn. So we saw, let's catch up with the game position. It's all about this pawn break. Magnus has castled in the meantime, and black's trying to force this one through, as you mentioned earlier, Simon. If he gets this pawn push...
If he gets that pawn push, he gets quite a lot of play. Yeah, I missed he couldn't do that earlier situation, but also if you compare the development of both sides, you can see that white has cleared his first rank, so all the white knights and bishops are sitting nicely. On the other hand, black hasn't managed to do that because he's got this light squared bishop, which is a real pain in this variation for black because it can't often find a good square. But he has got a mini positional threat now, which Magnus needs to think about how to deal with. Does he allow black to play this move, or does he try to hold it up somehow? Yeah. Would you try to stop that one, or prepare to meet it with some counter-attack? Yeah,
that's a good question, Simon. Usually there's two strategies, right? One, you either just push a pawn forward and you say, OK, if you march forward, I'll capture you en passant. But here it's always unclear, right, whether capturing en passant actually helps. For example, black's rook can recapture, and this pawn is just as weak as any of black's pawns. It's not clear who this really helps long term. For example, the black knight can always jump forward later on and start trying to jump into the centre. I'm not sure I would go for this. I'm always hesitant unless I can guarantee that black gets no counterplay to push this pawn.
I think I'd be very tempted to swap dark square bishops off here. I mean, with white. Yeah. I mean, to try and start targeting black's king.
Me too. And I just wanted to point out that there's one game in my database between two players at the Danish Open, and there white chose a different plan, which was actually to slide the rook one square across, and the whole idea is to meet the pawn push with a counter push.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is the Sadler plan that I was mentioning earlier. I remember Matthew Sadler used to do this time and time again, and actually he got the initiative on the queen side from doing this plan. But I also like what Magnus has done. Yeah. Makes a lot of sense to annoy black's position with this bishop move.
Yep, the queen attacks, and one thing you definitely don't want to do is block with a pawn, because now even if the bishop steps back where it came from, suddenly black's piece is completely blocked in, and you've also weakened some squares in the middle of your camp. Knowing my luck, he'll probably play this move now after I said it's the one thing you definitely don't want to do. But usually in this position with your queen hit, you either block. For example, you could potentially block with your dark squared bishop, but this accelerates white's plan of trading these bishops anyway. I think that's what Magnus wants to achieve. The other move here, the alternative would be to move the queen. But again, the queen looks a bit clumsily placed. Not too many squares for her. What would you do here, Simon, Ivanka, with the queen hit if you're in Arjun's shoes?
It's a tricky one. I mean, I might decide that I have to block with a bishop here because I don't like the alternatives. But as you mentioned, white generally wants to exchange off the dark square bishops for a couple of reasons. Number one, black's dark square bishop, that one highlighted, is cutting all the way across the board, so it's generally got great range. And also, it's the only defender, really, of black's king. So later on, if you can get rid of that bishop from the white perspective, black's king becomes a little bit more of a juicier target to attack. Slowly, well, generally with this pawn push that David has shown, this is the main way to get through the centre and towards the black king. So it's already a very tricky decision for black to make. How do you deal with it? And he has done a very understandable move there as well.
Yeah, just got his queen out of the way, and OK, Magnus, after misplacing the black queen, now he insists on a bishop exchange. This bishop exchange is pretty much guaranteed because if the black bishop runs away from this exchange, then the rook falls behind it. So yeah, Magnus, he's getting that strategic goal that he's been craving for a while now, getting black's best minor piece, at least, off the board. Consistent strategy.
It's consistent and it's a tense position. Well, anything can happen right now. And whilst Arjun is thinking, I want to share with you a few pictures. The first one comes courtesy of Saad Alamad, who says, guess whose T-shirt is this one? Wait for it. It's a good one. Here it is.
Oh, wow.
Oh, we have it! Yay!
Like it. Like
Simon
it.
approves. I approve. I want that one, actually.
Very
in
nice.
black. White is not my colour. And Ariane Illigan also shares with us a picture and says, Lord of the Boards. Wait for it. It's a good one, too.
Lord of the board.
Lord of the Boards. And here we are. You are Galadriel. Kaya.
Oh.
I can't remember the name of the brown-haired elf.
Who the hell am I? who is that person?
That's the dwarf.
Oh, right, yeah.
Gimli.
Is it Gimli?
And
Gimli, yeah.
then we have David.
That's Frodo, isn't
Frodo,
it?
yeah.
Frodo Baggins. Hello, Frodo.
Where's my
I
sound?
love this for Ariane.
Shouldn't you have been Gandalf, Simon?
Maybe, yeah. Yeah.
But then it doesn't look like him.
I always thought Frodo was quite annoying, actually.
Oh, thanks, Simon.
only in that. Yeah, you don't deserve to be. Oh, here we go. I'm going to try and dig a hole now. That's why David should not be Frodo, because David is a pleasure to be next to. Who would you say? Who would you like to be, David?
In Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, if you could pick one character.
Aragorn.
Aragorn, yeah, he's pretty cool, isn't he? Yeah. And I think you're more of an arrogant character.
I don't know. I'd love to be.
But
What
the
about
slaying
Frodo,
orcs?
Frodo has the most important role.
Yeah,
He's the ring bearer.
Yeah, he
Puts
does.
it in
It's
the-
true. It's true.
maybe. But my feet aren't as hairy as his, I should mention.
Has he got hairy feet?
Hobbits do, no?
Yeah, they do.
That's their thing.
Oh, right, yeah.
Okay, this has been
Well, thank you very much for sending us your pictures. And if you two want to send us your tweets, your pictures, your selfies, your thoughts, who you're cheering for, then please tweet us using the hashtag #ChessChamps, and we will feature them on the show.
You might have to speed up doing that, because if Magnus wins this game, the tournament is over. The bar is definitely over to his side, and he has definitely more time on the clock than Arjun as well.
Yeah, and Arjun's, he's really asking for trouble with his last couple of moves. He traded off the dark squared bishops. I'm surprised he did it on white's terms. Look at that white queen.
Yeah.
So close to the black king. Feels like trouble.
I mean, you could move the knight back around here. I mean, try to, white could just go for checkmate here. There's one idea, but there's many tempting things going on here.
Yeah. This is a monster threat, bringing the knight in and then sliding the white queen up. Trapping the king. Checkmate.
Yeah, this is dangerous.
I guess
Look at the valuation bar as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
Actually, white traded pawns first, so another option is to even slide this rook in first, trying to go this angle. But yeah, the evaluation part, this means that white is winning. Magnus has a winning idea. What is it? Okay.
I was thinking push the pawn.
Yeah, Jovanka, you're right. The computer Stockfish confirms, as we see in front of us, top 3 moves. This is number 1, pushing a pawn, and the idea, Jovanka.
Go forward, or even you might want to go a la Simon and play bishop takes pawn just to explode open. But my first reaction, that pawn goes all the way. It's a wrecking ball.
I mean, both pawns are very tempted to push, aren't they? There, you could even push the one right in the centre and bring a knight in behind it. This is a very common idea. Will he find this move? I mean, it's not.
I think he will.
Yeah, he's pretty good, isn't he?
Yeah, and I think the reason this is so strong is because the move we quite liked, Simon, which is the second best computer option, also very natural. I think this might allow the black queen to come into the centre, and when we threaten checkmate, the black queen can swoop back and defend. Queen exchange, probably white's still doing quite well, but no checkmate. This move, it just stops the queen coming over to the defence of her king.
Okay.
He doesn't go for it, Magnus. He plays one of the computer's top choices. We see there that was the 3rd choice by Stockfish, using the white rook. Also looks very good, to be honest. Also, maybe the most, or one of the most natural moves in the position. Clear threat. The knight is undefended, but...
This might be winning a pawn, mightn't it? It might win a pawn on the queen side, but sometimes that gives black counterplay. It's very hard now for black to hang on to the pawn he pushed forwards.
Yeah. So, for example, OK, he does push forward.
Oh, wow.
For example, if the rook had blocked, we would have seen an exchange, and as Simon mentioned, this pawn just drops. White would take it, defended by the bishop. Instead, he's going a pawn down in a different way, pushing this guy maybe this is just the best of a bad bunch, like the lesser evil. The knight will drop. White's knight will also drop, but white wins a pawn at the end. White wins the black pawn, pawn up, and with a potential attack. Still looks good. Not winning on the spot. The tournament isn't over yet. But yeah, Arjun on the ropes.
Wow. Another game. Magnus just playing fantastic chess.
Yeah. It's just been I mean, this one's been a difficult opening for Arjun, but he needed to take risks. He knows he's almost in a must-win situation. So we can't fault Arjun's opening choice. But Magnus, he's just so well prepared. And I saw a quote by, I think it was Peter Lecco, and he was saying, yeah, it's just Magnus. He has a game plan. We mentioned many times he plays every opening under the sun, but he chooses specific openings that target each opponent's weaknesses. So if he knows his opponent is in a must-win situation, he'll provoke them or he'll just shut down the game. If he knows they like passive positions, he'll go aggressive. If he knows they like attacking, he'll just shut them down, frustrate them.
Is he the expert in using psychology, basically?
Yeah, exactly. He just cherry-picks his openings because he knows pretty much everything. And he knows all these little details, these little nuances. He's just so good at cherry-picking his openings.
Yeah. And, well, his chess knowledge is spectacular, I have to say. And incidentally, I saw on Facebook, I've forgotten the name of the Spanish Grandmaster, so you'll have to forgive me, but he was talking about, you know, that 93-move endgame that he played with Vincent Keimer? Apparently that, a very, very similar, almost identical position had happened in a Kasparov-Karpov match in 1986. And Kasparov gave a recommendation in his book, like, what was the best plan? And, and Magnus basically did that plan.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, that's one level. The youngsters in this tournament, the teenagers, they've impressed so much, but that's one area they just can't compete yet. They just don't have... I mean, they haven't been playing chess long enough to accumulate all that knowledge.
I just remember the Grandmaster's names, Magnus Dublin. So, yeah, I have to give credit where it's due.
Yeah. It's one thing, like, you know, seeing these games and remembering them, but it's another thing keeping them in your long-term memory, you know, because it's very easy when you're preparing for a tournament, you can learn an opening idea, you can learn an idea, but recalling that information 5 years later, I think nearly everyone struggles, except for some of these amazing elite players. They seem to be able to, they have fantastic memory, and Magnus is known to have this amazing recall about the things he's picked up, basically, you know, real skill.
Yeah, and meanwhile, Arjun's rook has gone to the second row. I think this is good news. I mean, the pity is that the rest of the pieces are quite passive, but, you know, you've got to be optimistic. And you were talking about memory and perhaps life skills, Simon, and we have a question from Kent Lefgren, who says, could chess skills and knowledge improve your strategic thinking skills off the board, i.e. in real life?
I mean, yeah, I guess they can. I mean, they don't necessarily correlate, but you can certainly learn skills in life that you learn in chess. I mean, you know, for example, patience, planning is something that you need in chess, and you can obviously take that through to business or other areas. You know, if you're starting a business or you're planning about just how to improve yourself, really. And David, I would have thought there's many sort of other things that can be relevant as well. Yeah,
just general decision-making, weighing up the pros and cons, evaluating certain kind of things in life, I guess. But you're right, Simon, there's plenty of actual chess players who they start young, they play chess, but then they gravitate towards business or towards, I mean, other fields, finance, whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean, finance was a big one, wasn't it? In England, there was many players going back probably 20 years who became international masters, grandmasters. So they're the best chess players, but then they turned those skills to mainly finance and banking. And I think most of them all became millionaires by using those skills. So it's definitely helps, I think, yeah.
We chose the wrong career path, clearly.
You know, I remember a few years back in the UK, they had this kind of big national IQ test that they did on TV. And I remember that I was especially bad at the logic and the maths. And their recommendation for improving these skills was play chess. And I was like, I was like, that stung.
That's just harsh.
It was.
Blow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's some transferable skills, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's all positive. I struggle in real life from perfectionism as well, and indecision. Sometimes, just like in chess, there's so many options. I spend so much time on the clock. I'm the same in life. Decisions are hard.
Yeah.
You don't want to overthink too much in life. That's my tip.
So easy to get decision fatigue. I'm there with you, David. And it's a question for Erigaisi how to improve his pieces, and there he centralises his queen.
Yeah, very natural. Comes with the threat. Black's queen is attacking White's undefended c-pawn. Computer doesn't like it.
Oh, no.
I'm not really sure why. I don't see the refutation yet, but maybe it's just the fact that this queen is on a vulnerable square. Once the threat is dealt with, for example, if White defends this pawn, White's queen can even come back if really necessary. White's queen could come the whole way back to the first rank, defend everything, kick away the black rook. Maybe... OK, there we go.
Yeah. And maybe then the pawn is ready to push, so Black has to keep the threats going. Yeah. And, White would love to push that pawn, attacking the queen, which we saw earlier, but not in this position, because it would lose a big pawn, so...
Maybe you can do it anyway, Simon. Maybe this is the reason the evaluation bar likes White so much, because even in endgame, we talked about going for checkmate, but now we can switch focus, and if we kick the queen, if she moves after an exchange, maybe White can just go pawn hunting. In this type of structure, which resembles what we call a Benoni defence, it started as the King's Indian, then this is always the weakness. Again, the base of the pawn chain, and I can't see how to defend it.
That looks really strong, yeah. I mean, combined with the central pawn coming forwards, that's... I mean, if Black's not actually threatening to take that pawn, then it's really bad news for Arjun, and Magnus slowing down. OK, he's gone for a little bit safer option, but that knight's also on quite a good route, and the pawn is still ready to come forwards. But I like your move, David. Your move looked even stronger.
Yeah, I mean, Magnus just not in the mood to take any risks. Understandable. This pawn move might happen later. And as you say, the white knight, this is normally the dream square in this structure because it will later hit. The biggest weakness in the black camp. Takes a while, but Magnus has that luxury. He's just a pawn up, essentially, in this position and full control. Erigaisi, it just feels like he's caught Magnus at the worst possible moment. Magnus just on fire. The whole tournament.
Incredible. He hasn't lost... Well, he lost one game to
Aronian.
To Aronian, except from that one against Neiman.
Yep.
Incredible.
Yeah. And, OK, we like this move, right, Simon?
We always like this move.
Sorry, my arrows. This move, sorry. The black pawn pushing.
Yeah.
Trying to cause some kind of confusion, but...
Problem is you don't have much backup with any other piece except for your queen, and the black queen is sort of, OK, sitting on a pretty bad square as well.
So... Hard to get kicked, right?
She is. But, black does have one thing. Hope.
Yep.
It's the hope that kills you, Ivanka. It's the...
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. You've got to be positive. Magnus does play this move. The most natural. The queen is forced somewhere. Does she go this way, where she's not really doing too much? Does she step back this way?
Yeah.
Just
feels like,
yeah, I feel that he has to just make some kind of vaguely active move with the queen. I think if he sounds the retreat, that's just going to inspire Magnus to carry on. I mean, at least pretend to threaten something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a nice idea, but you can't even pretend. That's the problem. I mean, you've got to move the queen nearly all the way back. I mean, if you move it over here, it gets hit by the bishop or something, it has to go back, and it has to go back again, and all your other pieces are back-headed already. So it's...
be forced into the corner, and then...
It's omni-shambles.
For example, something like this, Simon, what do you think of this position for black? All pieces.
Yeah, I mean,
trying to set the board back up.
Yeah.
To the start.
It's
That's the type of thing that's happening in the current position.
Yeah.
It's just disaster, unfortunately, for Erigaisi.
Magnus has been such class, though. I mean, we shouldn't be too hard on Arjun, because it's just been the Magnus show, hasn't it? He's played fantastic chess, not taking any risks, but just playing good moves, various different openings, which is nice to see as well. And he's not giving his opponent chances. That's a really important thing. He doesn't give chances away. He's always putting the ball in the back of the net. Where's the queen going? OK, it's as good a square as any, I feel, this one. And there's a lot of tempting ideas here. Do you improve your pieces here again? Or do you try to push in the centre very quickly? Or maybe that rook move that you said, David? There's so many moves, isn't there?
I think
he's just improving his pieces here.
He is.
Yeah.
I did like your rook, David's rook move.
It looked quite tempting.
It looked very tempting, especially because it eyed up the queen. But OK, Magnus's move is great, you know. The knight is threatening to jump forward to the g4 square, attack the queen. And once again, that pawn push is in the horizon. And it's not just that pawn push, it's that target on d6 as well.
Yeah. Even if black wasn't a pawn down, even if you could kind of give black an extra pawn, I don't know, somewhere on the A file, for example, I think white just has some long-term strategic advantage anyway. So you give him material strategic advantage. At some point later, that will transform into a direct attack, quite likely, against the black king.
I mean, you could even be tempted to sacrifice a pawn. I mean, as white in these positions.
Blow things open in the centre.
This is a very, very normal idea in this structure, and one you should probably be aware of if you're playing this kind of pawn structure, which does come about in the Benoni, King's Indian defence, and this pawn with the knight coming to that square is the real sort of key. What a beautiful square that knight would gain there. Maybe it's not necessary. I don't think he'd play this if there's something safer, because you have to give up a pawn. Why do that? Keep it simple. But again, it could just be killing as well at the right time.
You're right. It's the one to look out for. If it works, then it nearly always gives a massive advantage in these types of structures, right?
Yeah.
I mean, here you'd have to do some calculating. This is what Magnus is maybe thinking right now. If the pawn is captured, knight jumping, can the black queen take this pawn, for example?
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like it's hanging together by a thread for black. OK, he plays it.
He's playing it.
So he's very confident that the tactics are working in his favour. And
so
if it works, this could be the end.
Maybe we can run through that line again then.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't take this pawn, you might as well just resign.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be pawn down and being steamrolled, bulldozed in the centre. And, OK, white's not jumping in. I mean, you could make an argument for jumping this way as well.
Yeah, definitely, because the black queen... Does it have to go back to its starting square, which you pointed out, David? We were joking about this, but then the white pawn in the centre comes forwards. This is just an absolute... That looks really strong, the knight going that way as well.
Yeah, I think maybe this is the easiest way. If you go the other way with the white knight, then because there's you've blocked up the E file, at least black can take here, potentially. I mean, to be honest, I still see a few scary ways for white to continue, but... Yeah, I mean, if you go the other way, queen takes pawn is no longer possible due to a pin, and the black rook would fall.
Oof, he's gone all the way back.
He's gone all the way back immediately.
Do you know what you should have done, David? I think you said it. Just resign.
Yeah, no, unfortunately, it's that point of the game now. I mean, if you're Magnus, worst comes to worst, you take a pawn here. You have to deal with your rook. Magnus will want to do something more flashy. Again, worst comes to worst, you retreat your rook, or maybe even move it this way. If you want to keep it safe, but Magnus might be looking for more direct options. I mean, other ideas that come to mind would be, for example, taking this knight and then throwing a pawn forward in the centre, trying to break through to the black king on this way. White can push this pawn next to open up the white queen's diagonal. White's knight is coming into the centre. Ugh, it just looks... I mean, you're spoilt for choice here. What would you guys be thinking? How would your thought process go?
I would probably look at just pawn takes pawn, first of all, because I'm going to be 2 pawns up, and if that keeps my initiative going, then why not just, you know, win another pawn and keep attacking, you know? That would be my first thought.
They're not bad pawns, are they? Yeah. I mean, so many squares.
And they're extra pawns, both of them. So that would be maybe the simple solution. And I think, like, you know, just in case I miscalculate something, simple is good. I
guess, yeah, whether you just decide to play something later, at least if you work out this one, you have it as a backup plan. And, yeah, I guess also very safe, just move the rook. The only problem is burning a lot of time on the clock when you have 4 or 5 very, very nice options. But Magnus has plenty of time, so he doesn't have to worry about that for now. Extra 3 minutes on the clock, an extra 2 pawns on the board, potentially. OK, he drops back with his rook, also understandable. Hitting this pawn now. Again, Erigaisi has to capture in the centre, otherwise he's just going to be 2 pawns down for free. And this is another idea, Simon, you mentioned, very typical, very thematic in this type of scenario.
He's moving
Blast
in for the
open
kill.
the king side.
Yeah, and the queen is now the white queen. Look at that diagonal, which you pointed out there, that it can just fly in, maybe with a knight coming in, the rook, the bishop, everything.
The queen.
Yeah.
Oh, no, this is over.
For example, pawn takes pawn. Suddenly Erigaisi's a pawn up, but it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm wondering how we finish this. I guess we jump in with the white queen first of all.
Yeah.
As you say, the white knight can jump in. The white rook is...
You're threatening rook
Wait,
g6
can I-
and
can I-
d6 is beautiful
Oh,
checkmate.
I wanted to show
Oh,
that.
sorry,
one.
yeah. Sorry, Ivanka.
For
It has a
example,
name.
Yeah. Does it? Crisscross?
No,
No? Bowden's mate?
begins with B. David knows it.
do I?
He got it
Not-
right.
not Bowden's
He
mate.
got it right. Magnus got it wrong.
So
remember
let's
the-
just show it on the board. This would be a check. Pawn takes, and
We might see it, David.
we are seeing this threat on the board at least. This would end in checkmate. The bishop hits the king. The queen cuts off the king on this diagonal. I don't know. B.
I thought it's Bowden's mate with the two bishops.
It is.
Oh.
Balestra checkmate.
Balestra. Ah, yes, that's right. It does ring a bell. So in this position, this was the massive threat. Rook across check from white, and Arjun has defended. He's prevented that with his knight coming back. The knight is covering the square.
But maybe it's time to bring the white knight in now. I mean, there's so many moves there.
Guys, you know I was joking about putting all black's pieces on the back rank.
Yes.
It's actually happened again.
Oh, dear.
All of his pieces. This is backs to the wall, park the bus.
Whoa.
This is park the bus defending, literally. And it won't work out well. The rhyme does go knight and f8, there's no mate, but I think we'll see an exception to that rule.
I mean, the white queen might even step back one square, allowing the white rook to cut. There's so many, moves
Simon.
that are just floating in the position. Bring the knight in. I mean, so many tempting moves there, and he's just spending his time.
Bring the knight in.
Don't get excited. This is one thing that is very easy to get carried away. Get excited. This is also very strong. I was thinking get ready to push the pawn forwards, but it's
Ready to push, and then this bishop will come to life.
or there's a queen check as well.
That's even more deadly.
And the funny thing is, not one of black's pieces can come to the aid of black's king.
Yeah.
Yep, the evaluation bar finally realises how deadly this attack is. And as Ivanka mentions, this piece, wrong side of the board, queen cut off, can't participate, the rook stuck. The knight's doing a good defensive job at least, but it's defending alone.
Yeah,
I
this
think we're
is
in the last few moves of this tournament.
X-rated stuff here. You know,
That's
The
brutal,
king.
unfortunately.
it is.
Magnus in killer mode. You know, he's just relentless. He really is not stopping here. And if we had any doubt that Magnus would slip up, he has come in today in an absolute fighting mode. He is the beast.
I mean, yesterday he was critical of his play. Can he even be that today? Has there been any flaws at all?
I mean, we know he's self-critical and we know he has extremely high standards for himself, but I don't think we can... I think we need to call him out if he's critical of himself. Because
Please jump in if he doesn't, David.
I think if any of us played a game like this, we'd be like, oh, best game of our career.
Yeah.
And Magnus is like, oh, I could have done better here.
Yeah.
No, it's just a masterpiece.
If he doesn't come to the interview, Kaya, with a smile as big as the Cheshire Cat, then we have to criticise him.
Yeah.
We have to go, come on, Magnus, this is incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been so consistent throughout the tournament. You know, the record-breaking 34 points in the preliminaries, losing just one game to Aronian.
Breaking 2,900 with this win.
Smashing through that golden barrier, 2,900.
And, I mean, Arjun with his last move is trying to use the rook to defend, but you don't even have to pull the trigger quite yet if you're white here. But, yeah, he's going to be over 2,900 rating, isn't he, on the tour with this win. It was just phenomenal achievement.
Yeah.
Just got to do it on you know, in real life now, and he's there. So
Real life?
real life.
This is real life, Simon.
Yeah, I suppose so. Like over the board.
Yeah.
I think it's that's
Classical,
what I was looking at. Yeah.
Imagine being over 2,900 in classical rapid blitz Fischer random.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think that might be the pinnacle.
Yeah.
Doesn't get much better than that.
We asked him, I think it was after preliminaries, if when was it? Sometime. I asked him if we're seeing a generation shift in chess, and he said, yeah, definitely, already seeing that. I'm not so sure. He seems ready to stay up there.
Yeah, I mean, he's extra motivated playing all these young guys.
Yeah.
I guess it must be tiring playing people of his same generation for Magnus hundreds of times. You know their styles, you know their openings, you know how the games go. When you play someone young, it's fresh, it's different ideas, it's a different style of chess.
Is he going to try to go for something with a bit of flair? I'm thinking move the knight into the middle. Don't do this at home. It's the kind of move where there's no point to do. But is he going to try to find a stylish finish or
something like this?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be doing that myself. But
bring the rook in.
Yeah, or is he going to just try to find a clinical finish? I mean, what is the most clinical finish here? Pushing the pawn in the middle. Is there a queen check? Still have to calculate the end.
Yep.
So
this queen check looks very strong. Pushing this pawn makes sense. You open up the bishop on this diagonal. The black bishop will block. What's the follow-up? I mean, it's hanging again by a thread for black right now. I guess you can give a check.
Yeah, then take the bishop, probably.
Yeah, and then if the knight blocks, for example, I mean, you can take this knight, you can take the bishop. I mean, either way you win. Rook takes, and now you can take this knight. This is a nice way. Discovered attack against the black queen. Undefended. Maybe black can defend better there. I'm not sure. OK, Magnus. Yeah. We're going to find out. He has opened up his bishop. This bishop is a real archer, firing arrows down at the black king. I just didn't see how to defend.
No, this is a very natural move. You take away more squares from the black pieces, you open your bishop, you open another attacking piece, and you're just asking black, what are you going to do? And I don't think there's much that can be done.
You're attacking with 3 right now, with the knight and rook on standby.
Wow.
Yeah.
And 1 minute left for Arjun Erigaisi. Do you think that means also 1 minute left in the final, basically?
Not much time. The clock is ticking down, and with it, Arjun's chances. And we're expecting bishop takes bishop, right?
I think queen check is maybe worth
first.
flicking in as well. Maybe the black king has to move, but I'm just trying to find the actual killer. So queen check looks like it's a good move because it lines up against the black queen, showing those tactics David demonstrated. But is there a killer after the king goes in the corner? There should be.
Yeah, let's quickly investigate before Magnus plays his move. He's doing the same as we're doing. He knows it's winning. I mean, just looking at this position, you can tell, but you need the killer blow. So he's calculating checks first, then he'll look for the captures, the threats. This check, as we showed, the knight jumping in the way, white can just take the bishop off, and this knight will drop next move, for example, and then we win the queen. This is the line we showed earlier, and therefore Simon thinks, and I think correctly, that the only move, if you can't block with the knight, is to move into the corner. It looks so dangerous, but you can meet this check with a knight block. Otherwise, this would be the lawnmower checkmate, I think.
That would be. I mean, can you just first of all just go for material?
How do you go for material here?
Yeah, I was thought if you could flick in a queen check before moving the rook.
So here, queen check. I mean, just take this pawn, or do you want to flick across here, maybe?
We're going to see this, guys.
We're going to see it. OK, he's given a check.
Gives a check with his rook.
Over. And does the queen come over one square? It does. Yeah.
Lining up against this knight.
Only move to save the game is to use the rook.
To defend?
Yeah.
And what's the tipping point? How do you push black over the edge? I still don't see it. This bishop is defended by black's rook in the centre. This knight is defended by the other rook. Suddenly, these two pieces can't really get in. Where's the finishing touch? Maybe, if you want to keep things simple, I guess you just trade off the bishops, and then maybe you take this pawn with the queen. Next move, you start to bring the knight into the centre, or maybe this way. But
still holding on, though.
Black's alive.
It doesn't seem like the smoothest way to convert the advantage here. I mean, we didn't know what the win was, but is there something easier than that? OK, he's going for this.
Does go for this. OK, we see that position on the board. Queen takes pawn has happened, so white will jump in with his knight, and still looking good. The black king stuck in the corner, but OK, Erigaisi, credit to him. He survived the worst.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still uphill struggle. Can he continue surviving? It's level pawns on the board right now, but strategically still dominant for white. And OK, a defensive piece has come along. You love those fianchettoed rooks, don't you, Simon? Defensively.
I mean, it seems like there's some chances to survive this to me. I mean, like he's got a bit of a defensive formation. It's materially equal, so there's no advantage. And if
And
White
it's built on time on the clock as well.
yeah, so it's not quite over.
It's turned the Indians' way, and yeah, fair play to Arjun. I mean, he's so good. We know him for attacking, for being great in the opening, for being really smooth technically in the endgame, but defensively he's showing that, you know, he's up there with the best. I don't think many people would have survived this long against Magnus from that position earlier.
No.
If you can get the queens off here, that would be, you know, back in the game, definitely. So
Yep.
I'd love to move my queen up one square if I was black here, right?
Yeah. And I was kind of curious because Magnus' position looks so overwhelming that it's difficult to believe that the material is equal. I would have thought that he had some advantage here somewhere. But I like his last move. You know, it's a very Magnus-type move. He's just making a square available for the white king to run to. And also, maybe the white knight can springboard to a protected g4 square.
What is the reason Magnus is so much better in this game? Actually, everything looks, you know, when I look at it, it doesn't look like it to me.
King safety is the main thing. If you take a look at black's king, it's defended by pieces. And that's not the optimal use of your pieces. I mean, you'd rather have the rook perhaps attacking, on the centre line. You certainly would not like the knight to be acting like a pawn. And Arjun playing Simon's move, trying to offer a trade of queens, and Magnus is absolutely not. No way.
It's essentially like a battle, if you imagine all the warriors, and you've got your best fighters, your best soldiers, standing at the back, you know, in the tent, guarding their king, when actually all your foot soldiers are just there being beaten up by the opponent's best fighters. So here, White's setup is he has the kind of bodyguards in front of his king, the white queen, the white rook, white knight, they're open to do what they want, the best fighters. And if you look at black's knight, it will never, ever move from in front of its king. It's just stuck there. So the rest of the board, black is playing a knight down, essentially. So I'm still surprised as well that the evaluation bar is that much in black's favour, in Magnus's favour, sorry. But it's clearly good for white here. Again, just comparison of the kings.
I mean, this looks like the killer blow to me. I think Arjun might have been relying on moving a pawn to unleash the queen, but it just doesn't work. You just lose material.
5 seconds.
This
I have to make a move.
Okay, this
And he
move, as you
does.
mentioned, Simon.
Well, I think you can just take the rook and take the pawn. Next move.
But black's queen is coming out, and black's queen is going to hit the white rook on the other.
Well, at least I'm finding ways to lose this position.
Wow. So this is a counterattack. Black's queen has suddenly opened up a threat against white's rook on the side of the board. I mean, taking that black rook looks like a good step. I mean, the white rook can always go up and take a pawn after.
And you've got a queen, white queen coming to the back rank. There are plenty of ways, but
white's rook can go and take the black knight. There's other options.
Yeah. And he does take the rook. And now Erigaisi has to capture the rook. And, rook takes pawn, and black's position is now starting to fall apart.
Yeah, and now we do a quick count. White is also 1 pawn up with an ongoing attack. Erigaisi's trying his best, though, the white queen under threat.
But only for one move, because Magnus is the one that delivers a check first. And either black is going to trade off rooks, or he has to step forward with his king. And, a set of rooks are going to leave the board. Yeah,
and now Magnus is going to start mopping up. He gives a queen check. A second, potentially third pawn is going to fall. I still think Erigaisi's defended so well, but the problem is you're playing the best player in the world, and you don't always have to go for checkmate, as Magnus is showing. He's just playing materially now. He's going to give another check, most likely with the white queen. The one thing he has to avoid, Magnus, is the black queen coming in to start checking the white king. White's king's slightly vulnerable, so with this check, Magnus loves to centralise his queen, first of all, but with this check, he's covering any potential queen jumps, knight jumps for black. And big double threat, hitting the black queen and threatening to go with the white queen in front of the black king, checkmate.
And black has no checks here. I mean, he has a knight check, but it doesn't help. You can't stop checkmate or losing your queen here.
Yeah, checkmate is coming one way or the other. The evaluation bar is shot all the way up. No defence, 10 seconds on the clock. He throws in one last desperate check. This knight can just safely be captured. And maybe another check with the black queen, but
And
Can even block with the queen here, yeah. Simple way to do it.
over.
there we go. Magnus swapping the queens off, extra knight, extra pawn. He's going to win the tournament.
Wow.
And,
And there it is. It's over. Arjun Erigaisi resigns, facing an impossible world #1, Magnus Carlsen, with a slight smile there. He